Death's design is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. We're gonna die by death's plan. Death's design is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. We're gonna die tonight. Oh shit. I'm John Renton with the retro review of Final Destination 3. Pretty much the last halfway decent entry into the never-ending and everlasting franchise is the Final Destination, well, franchise. If it wasn't part of a franchise, there'd be no point to call it a franchise. But it is a franchise that would hit fucking rock bottom with the Final Destination that I will be retro reviewing at some point. It wasn't even the Final Destination. You lied to me. You fucking lied to me, movie. But anyway, that's the next edition. Let's talk about this one that I have some affection for because it has some really cool deaths and is also pretty goddamn bad and really started to show the cracks in the fucking foundation. The fact that there were large cracks and this thing was going to start sinking into a goddamn sinkhole and a quagmire giggity. And it would never really get out of it. Even with Final Destination 5, if man, woman, animal, vegetable, or mineral are still alive. We're getting Final Destination 6 at some point for some goddamn reason. Yeah. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on this film in the comments, please. It's directed by James Wong, not Wan, not the guy that ended up directing the Conjuring movies. Nope, or at least the first two, and had something to do with the Conjuring universe in some form or fashion. This is the guy that did the first Final Destination, the one, and also Dragon Ball Evolution. And since then has not really directed all that much. I wonder why. Maybe because Dragon Ball Evolution was absolute shit. It was based on the characters by Jeffrey Decker. It was also written by Glenn Morgan. Boy, the way Glenn Morgan writes. FD1, Black Christmas 2006, not the awful 2019 edition. Not that the 2006 edition was that great. But yeah, this has Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who was 22 at the time this film came out. She looks the same now. She's an immortal. She's gorgeous. She has she actually is pretty damn good at acting too. It's actually nice to have a combination there. She's had an interesting career, I'll say that much. This was a few years before Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and you really don't have any other star power here. Tony Todd isn't even Bloodworth. He's just the voice of the devil, and for the carnival that they have a little bit, into the movie, and then the voice of the subway driver, because apparently they're just going to let anybody conduct subways, including disembodied voices. So it does have a guy named Texas Battle in it. Texas Battle. That is a great goddamn territorial wrestling name from like the 70s and 80s in New York, obviously. Not Texas. Haha, you thought I was going there. It does have a bunch of pretty girls in it, and also it has a bunch of death. It has a couple of my favorite deaths in the goddamn franchise. Basically, 6 friends survive a roller coaster accident, and then they're all targeted by Death's design. Well, they say 6. It's actually more like 20 people that are targeted. But never the fucking less. This movie's kind of bad in retrospect, though. I mean, like, it's got some of my favorite deaths. It's got a good pacing to it. It's got just a ridiculous set of circumstances that causes these deaths. And they just get more and more goddamn ridiculous until they almost just gave up. I mean, by this point, you were just waiting for the deaths. Unlike the first one where it had characters and the death scenes happened to occur, around them. It happened where the death scenes were there and characters were just thrown in there in really, really contrived ways. It got to the torture porn aspect and could never get out of it. So, during this carnival scene, this never-ending carnival scene, there's a long opening sequence. Yeah, you had to establish that some of these people knew each other, but you did have the 2 girls that would later be involved in the tanning bed scene. These 2 girls were squirting in a clown's mouth. I'm just going to let that marinate in your goddamn head. 2 girls squirting in a clown's mouth. You're welcome for that. And then Tony Todd's voice, his voicing over, obviously. It'd be weird if his voice wasn't voicing over something. As he was the devil for this. He's like, it's like, you can run, but you can't hide. Like, there's no turning back now. I'll see you soon. This is the beginning of the end. He wasn't wrong because the quality really dipped after this. Mary Elizabeth's character, Wendy, was taking pictures, for graduation, despite the fact that everybody was in their early 20s, but nevertheless, everybody's taking pictures. There's this creepy guy named Frankie that graduated 2 years ago, but is still hanging out with high school students. Maybe don't do that. Unless you have a sibling and you have a reason to interact with people, unless you have a sibling still in high school, don't interact with them, especially not in the way he does it. Fucking hell, he's creepy. And Wendy is just scared to death of this roller coaster. She has a reason to be, because it's leaking some kind of brake fluid, transmission fluid, whatever the fuck. The chain ends up getting worn. Frankie has a camera because Frankie was going to Hollywood, but Frankie was just going to go to his death. The camera falls out when they have a bit, turbulence, as it were, even though this thing wasn't flying, but they felt like they were flying. They were flying soon, and the camera gets wrapped around and then goes over. It gets run over, but that spark there, because it's electronic, causes a fire, and everybody dies. And then Wendy's like, it's going to crash, it's going to crash, it's going to crash. Gee, I wonder if I've heard this before. This was more of a return to form as far as having better deaths. The second movie, I hate to say it, pretty much could not match its iconic freeway opening scene. The roller coaster one was a bit of a downer. It made up for it a little bit later. And she's screaming, let me off, 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 and that's it. And then she's screaming. And she's whatever. And then everybody gets off except her boyfriend and the girlfriend of another guy. And then they crash. My God, who could have seen this coming? Only everybody. And then Kevin, the surviving boyfriend of the other girl, that was going to break up with him, by the way. Was going to break up with him 2 weeks after graduation. And he was going to ask her to marry him. He didn't read the signs, and they opened up his eyes, and then he died. So he says, this stuff has happened before, people having premonitions, Flight 180, and then the freeway of love and death. And, well, we get the girls, these two girls, one named Ashley, and I don't actually remember the other's name. It's not important for the purposes of this equation. They're two bubble, big-breasted girls that like to tan. I think it was Ashley, the one that was playing the ditzy blonde, says, I just want to look my best for those that can't have a graduation. Fuck. There's this fucking Russian, Yugoslavian, Ukrainian owner of this shop. He could have been Greek for all I fucking know. I couldn't place the accent. And Wendy, meanwhile, is talking to her sister. Her sister's kind of a bit selfish, her younger sister. But she's just like, I need help. You're all I have left. Mom and Dad aren't here. Here's a question. Who the fuck's running the house, and how do they afford that shit? There's a plot hole. But there's a good luck bracelet that gets factored in. And then Wendy has to look through all these various pictures, and she's trying to figure out these clues. Maybe these clues are an indication as to what's going to occur for their deaths. And then she sees the two ditzy girls in the tanning beds holding a palm tree. Tanning. Oh no, there's no other place where palm trees fucking exist. But then, you're not supposed to bring drinks in, but one does, and the condensation goes into this control module that raises the temperature. And then the tanning beds start to go south. Tanning bed starts to fry and the shelf conveniently was loosened before when they were banging around trying to look for CDs. Because I'm pretty certain they were used to banging around places. That's mean. Let's move on from that. I mean the characters. But they're doing that, and then the shelf conveniently falls and somehow pins their tanning beds together, and they can't get out. The temperature's rising. They're fried. The glass breaks. They fry, and then the fire just whoosh, just burns them. Just fucking burns them. It's so fucking hilarious. I don't know why this is so funny to me, but I will laugh every goddamn fucking time I see this. And Mary Elizabeth's character can't get a hold of them while they're frying it. And then there's a funeral. And then there's this emo guy named Ian, and he's got his girlfriend Erin, Alex with a Z, so you know it's cool. That's the actress's first name. And then they're at a funeral, and Ian kind of goes nuts about all this stuff. Ian is upset because these two young girls died. Frankie's all like, creepy and whatever. And then the pastor says, those of you that want, and I remember this distinctly, those of you that want, would like to pay a final remembrance, and I actually said to some friends, and other people laughed, may not want to look in the casket. And everybody laughed. which was an indication that movie probably wasn't going to be well received in that theater. And it was right before I had stopped working at that theater. Nevertheless, so I got him for free. But I always like that. It's just fucking hilarious. Wendy feels like, the thrill of death is all around us. It's like cold and haunting. And man, that mid-2000s CGI where they couldn't even afford windy trees. And they just superimposed it. And whoo, boy, you want to talk about a bad shot there. She comes up with pictures like conspiracy theories. Like, it's like Lincoln, what happened with him. He died. A shadow over the towers. They actually showed a picture of that. Only 5 years after that shit. Never going to get over that stuff. The freeway crash. And all the other stuff going on. And Kevin doesn't believe her, but then does believe her because he put the thoughts in her head at first. And then they're looking at pictures. Kevin almost hits a guy trying to get into a company vehicle. And they're going down hills here. Apparently they're in San Francisco or some suburb. I actually don't remember where they are. I don't really fucking care, quite frankly. But they go to a drive-thru of a not McDonald's. How dare you accuse them of that? But there's this asshole in front of them that is just taking forever with his order. And then somebody pulls in behind them and they're looking at pictures like, oh shit, I gotta order, sorry. But then this pale ale truck suddenly backs into him. Now, in case you don't remember that truck, that was from the freeway scene in the beginning of Final Destination 2, where a guy was drinking on the job. Nice little Easter egg there. And then they get pinned by that truck. They get pinned against the wall. And then this runaway truck, the truck that they ended up cutting that guy, that guy got cut off of. Apparently he decided to get out the other side and forgot to set the parking brake or something. Or the truck just said, I'm getting away from this asshole. Bye. And then they managed to get out of the way by kicking out their windshield. And then the engine from that truck, from the truck, got shoved through and cut Frankie's head. Cut his bald head up. And then it said, it's fucking hilarious. At least to me it is. And then they are trying to find this guy Lewis, a big, tough black man. He doesn't die first, shockingly, in the movie. I mean, this slasher or horror movie actually got something right. Ignore the cliches. But he's all tough and buff and everything. And there's this big old workout with a bunch of macho men. And they're working out. And there's this thing where they show in the back of the picture where it showed the sultans. And it was a very, very, very racist sultan character with swords. And he said, help, help me. A son chop. If anybody remembers that, please let me know. And what ended up happening was he's working out, and then these swords fall and they cut while he's working out on the weight machine. Weight machine, where he got the plates up and you just do this. And then he's like, nothing happened. The swords ended up cutting the weight wires, or the wires on the thing. Nothing's holding the weights down. And then he works out, and then boom, the weights crush his head. The blood splatters. Okay. He didn't wait for assistance. I'm sorry, am I having too much fun with this movie? I shouldn't laugh, but it's funny. It's deeply comedic by this point. Just fucking got crushed by weights. Don't know why that's funny. And then Ian and his goth girlfriend, they're there. They're doing their thing. They're at a not Lowe's or not Home Depot because there's no help outside the Home Depot. That's mean. And they're putting away a bunch of nails and a bunch of other shit. Ian is like, oh, people die. It's up, that's just part of life. No, it's part of death. It's kind of how things work. They're putting away shit and they're talking about stuff. And then as things are going on, she's trying to figure out these pictures. And people were putting stuff up in front of, Ian was putting his hand in front of his face. And so was Aaron. So what the hell is going to happen? Well, he was using a nail gun earlier to kill pigeons that were setting off the alarms. Pigeons are adorable. They're disease birds, but they're adorable. And nevertheless, what ends up happening is somehow, through a series of circumstances, this extra forklift gets started, and the runaway random forklift is my favorite character in the movie, by the way, because it doesn't say anything, and it will not be stopped. Can't stop me now. I'm having such a good time. And then all this stuff happens where all the people get knocked down, and there's all this plywood and all these tables and everything, and this garbage deathmatch bullshit. Damn kids that can't know how to have a good match these days. Non-wrestling fans have no fucking idea what I'm talking about. But Aaron ends up going up against a nail gun that goes off to oh no! And then Ian's pissed. And then he ends up targeting them later at a tricentennial celebration. And then, because the tricentennial celebration really helped bring the town together after Watergate. If you're a longtime Simpsons viewer, you are dying laughing right now. And it turns out that Kevin's picture had him like this. Like he was being flashed. Or like a firework almost went off in his face. Or something happened. Well, he stops a bunch of fireworks from being used. Wendy's sister is there with a bunch of friends, and then one of the friends ends up getting getting staked because his horse runs away. Maybe you shouldn't have had a horse around a bunch of explosives and all that. But Ian is stalking him, and I'm going to be the cause of your death. Well, that's okay, because it skipped me, because I'll just talk about skipping and intervening and all this, because the plot's folding back in on its own ass. And then Ian gets missed by these fireworks, and then boom, 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 boom. Oh no, it's not going to kill me. And then this crane falls and crushes him and severs him. Fucking hilarious. And then they're on a subway 5 months later. And then Wendy gets another vision because they're on car 180. Oh no! And also Tony Todd was the voiceover for the subway guy. And then she sees it's a vision, but she can't get off the train. Oh no, there's something on the wing of the train. That's not how that works, and they died. Also, a rat ate chocolate, and that's how it electrocuted and reset the wiring. Damn rats and their chocolate. Diabetes rats. Diaratus. Really ruined that there. So yeah, then people over the world, they joined hands. They died on a death train. A death train. Weird rendition of Love Train to close out the credits there. Yeah, Final Destination 3 was fun. Let's talk about Final Destination, or the Final Destination, in the next review. I'm going to be reviewing a lot of this shit because I really, why the fuck not? Why not expand on these films? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.